XENNS Mangird Tea PRO. Let's talk about it. This video is mainly focusing about the XENNS Mangird Tea PRO, but since we have the T2 here and the Mangird Tea, we're going to be talking about those briefly as well. Let's get into this IEM. I wanted to start off by saying I think the best part of this IEM is its shell. It's a little bit big, but it's metallic and it feels good in ears. It has a great wing, which you can kind of see here right there. It has a nice metal nozzle and it does a lot of things extremely well. It feels great in ear. It feels like it has great build quality, and it's one of my favorite shells on an IEM to date. I think it's a 2-pin cable connector and just an overall really solid feeling IEM, and I was really impressed with it. Let's kind of compare this to the original one right here. This is, it's a different style IEM. Like it's a better fit for me, and I think it kind of represents a little bit more technology and a better sense of feel. And I feel like it is a little bit of a larger shell, but I do think the faceplate is prettier on the new one, and I think that's kind of something to note. I mean, if you look at it, it's similar, but it's a little bit more slight. It's not as big, it's not as thick. So I mean, if size is a concern, then the Pro may not be for you. As we look at number 2, you'll notice it has kind of a similar style, but it's more of a resin. I like the faceplate on it, but I think the new shell, just again, there's something about it. That metal shell, it feels really nice in ear. I think it looks really good. The faceplate is also nice to look at, and they did a really good job with it, so I like it a lot. I'm mixed on this cable, but this termination is great. It's swappable to a 4.4 and a 3.5. The cable itself is thick, it feels braided and has good build quality, and I like the appearance and look at it. It has a nice Y split. Its chin slider is very loose and does slide all over the place if that is something you need. But, it's a 2-pin cable connector and it's an overall solid cable with no major fault. Now, how does this IEM sound? It sounds bassy, but clean, kind of like a JM1, but it feels like it has strong, impactful bass. It's a nice sounding IEM with a great shell and great packaging and build quality. Let's take a minute and look at that packaging and build quality, and then we'll look at some graphs and talk more about the sound. First, I wanted to take and look at build quality of the packaging and just kind of what comes with it. With the original T, which has been out for quite a while now, you'll notice it has this kind of brown case with the white cable, nothing too exciting. If you look at the XENNS Mangird T2, you'll notice it basically has that same case, that same kind of a white cable. Doesn't have a swappable termination, and it's about the same. Now, if you look at the new one, it's $10 more. I think, if you're looking at just packaging, it has this beautiful case, a swappable terminal, this beautiful great shell that looks durable. Like if you can see this kind of close up here, I think this is a better built IEM with better accessories, and it shows kind of the next level, like almost the new version of what the T2 is. Let's look at the graph. You'll notice the graph is a nice looking graph. It looks really good and it has a lot of good things about it. I don't think it's perfect. I think it has some minor issues that I want to talk about that I am not super happy with. As we normalize at 500, we kind of look at this here, and there's a bit of bass, there is a bit of minor issues. It does lack a little bit in sub bass when you look at this, but in ear it feels just kind of a lot boomy. It feels like it has this kind of distorted style bass that I am not a huge fan of. It just doesn't feel like it's clean and hard hitting as much as I want it to be, and there's some minor faults despite it being an extremely pleasing, nice IEM for its cost. Now, if we look at last year's darling of the audiophile world, we have the Kiwi Ears Quintet. Now, I like the Quintet. And the Pro does have better bass. It is more fun. I do think there's a lot to like about it, and I think the Pro has better air and upper treble of the quintet. It's a really smooth set and extremely enjoyable, but I don't think it's perfect. As we move up and kind of around, I wanted to talk about the Jazeera 61T. They have similar graphs. They do a lot of things kind of weird. Sometimes it's hard for an IEM to really be able to pull off air and separation well. And I think one of the problems about the Mangird Tea Pro 2024 is it kind of has that same fault that it's of the Jazeera 61T, that it's a fun set, but not a super sparkly and upper air and detail focused set. And that's kind of a concern I wanted to point out. I really like Jay's Australia, and I think it's a fantastic set. I'm not sure why it works better. It could be a little bit more air up here. It could be a little bit increased 4K region. It could be a lot of things. I felt the bass to be more impactful and cleaner as well, and it just felt like the better IEM. I really think the Australia is a benchmark for its price, and it's hard for me to recommend the Tea Pro for what it is, despite it having some positive qualities about it. As we look at something like the EM10, and these are pretty similarly priced, I think the EM10 even has a better packaging. I like its bass and its impact. I feel like it's a little bit cleaner and better, kind of this lower mid-range region. It does an exceptional job of that, and I really enjoy that. I feel like there's just, the EM10 is a V-shape and is not going to be for everybody, but I think its dynamics and sound of the EM10 are a bit more fun, a bit more enjoyable to my ear, and I personally would rather listen to the EM10 over the Mangird Tea Pro 2020. One of my favorite sets of this year is the Dyna Quattro. Now the Dyna Quattro is coming in right around $260. It also is packaged well. It's a fully dynamic driver. I just feel it's a little bit more cohesive and has a smooth, clean tuning. It's almost like a dynamic driver with extra dynamic drivers to make it more dynamic, and it's so fun. I really like that set, and it really works for me and my library, and I like the tune and feel of it in ears. I kind of have to go with it sonically as well over the Tea Pro, and that's kind of something to think about. Now the Dooney Da Vinci, I think these two trade blows a great deal. I think they both have similar problems in the bass, but I think the Dooney Da Vinci has way better air and upper treble, and it has like great details for those that like it. To me, the Mangird Tea Pro comes across and feels slightly dark and not as airy as I would like, and I kind of would have to go with the Dooney Da Vinci in that regard. Now the KE4 is also another one I kind of prefer over the Tea Pro 2024. I just find it really clean and effortless, and I feel like it does a really good job, and it sounds great. Now you might like one over the other, but to me it just feels like it has that better upper mid spike that I like a great deal, and I feel like, for half the price, it might be, the bargain of the year for a lot of audiophiles. And the Mangird Tea Pro 2024, if you're after a bassy set or something that has this kind of style bass that feels bassy, it could be better, but it's hard for me to recommend it over the KE4. Now the Hype 4, I love the Hype 4. I think the Hype 4 is a better set. It's so fun, it's so good. It just has really great vocals and a little bit cleaner lower mid-range, and that mid-bass region doesn't feel as boomy. I don't know, the Hype 4 just feels a little bit more neutral and a little bit less hazy. It feels like it has better instrument separation. I like it a lot. The faceplate of the Hype 4, like all three of them are kind of mid and terrible. The Mangird Tea Pro is prettier, but I kind of have to go with the Hype 4 over it as well. Now the Cadenza 4, it's another interesting one that's been talked about a little bit more recently, kind of getting like a revitalization or something for interesting reasons that we'll probably see about later. But I don't know, they kind of contrast each other a lot. One's really, really bassy. One has clean upper mids and air. This one is a little bit cheaper, but I mean, the T Pro, you get better bass, but it also has the problem of feeling slightly blunted and doesn't have the effort, like the instrument separation that the Cadenza 4 has, which is a concern for me. Now, if you compare that to the other ones, I thought the Mangird XENNS Tea had some weird imaging, and I thought it almost unlistenable. I mean, I can see how people would like it, but I didn't find it competitive for what it is, and it's just kind of, it's fully mid. As far as comparing the T2 versus the Mangird Tea Pro 2024 edition, the Pro is a little bit more, has a little bit more bass, a little bit more mids. It does things a little bit more fun and engaging. The T2 is more relaxed. It's a little bit more neutral to my ear, whereas the T Pro feels bassy, impactful, fun. It's enjoyable to listen to music on. As far as a music listening set, the Pro gets my vote, and I think depending on your library, it could be exceptional. The XENNS Mangird Tea Pro, I found it to have good bass, but it didn't feel as pristine as I wanted it to be. I thought it had good upper mids, but it didn't have really this sparkly energy that I wanted in a lot of tracks. A lot of things felt slightly muffled, and it felt like it lacked the micro details in the music that I wanted it to have. Its imaging and overall pleasant tune does help make up for that, but it felt like it did have a narrow soundstage, and it did not do instrument separation and micro details as good as I would expect of an IEM this price. I think there's a lot of things that would do you a little bit better, but it's not a bad set, and it felt extremely dark and rich to my ears, and in some ways a little bit too dark and not clean enough, unfortunately. In summary, it's a contender. It has a lot of great qualities that we've talked about, but I think it's possibly skippable depending on your collection. Now, if you're coming into the hobby or you're really looking to upgrade and the build quality of this does look appealing, full recommendation, go for it. But if the build quality is not something that you value, I think you might find a better sound in something like the Estrella, as this is just kind of okay in the sound, and I think it has some minor issues despite it being competitive. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I hope you guys have a great day. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Go watch another IEM video. It's done. That's the entire video. What more do you want?